Now, South Africa and Mozambique are commemorating the Matola raid where 12 Umkhonto Wesizwe cadres and one Mozambican national were killed by apartheid forces. That was in 1981. Freedom Park, alongside the South African High Commission and Mozambican authorities, are marking the day. Judge Albie Sachs earlier, he was delivering a lecture in Maputo to honour the 30 Matola raid victims. We now speak to our SABC News reporter Khayelihle Khumalo, who is out and about in Mozambique. So lots happening, Kaya, to honour the MK members who died.
Well, certainly quite a very evocative day here in Maputo, as it's exactly 42 years since those MK cadres were killed in a very heinous attack by the apartheid forces. But also it's just a day of solidarity between South Africa and Mozambique. We do know that you go back to 1982, where a day of friendship was declared as part of really just paying homage to these freedom fighters. So it's quite a very important moment between South Africa and Mozambique as well. These are formidable partners. They work together in so many aspects. You look at the northern parts of Mozambique with terrorism, that has been a main issue. South Africa is also one of the troops contributing countries, but a very main speaker for the lecture that has been delivered here at Edward Mondlane is, of course, Justice Sachs, who joins us now. Justice, thank you so much indeed for joining us here on SABC News. By all means, a very sad occasion, but also you said, you know, the monument that has been erected is just not about pain, but it's about solidarity between South Africa and Mozambique.
Wonderful statements by Samora Machel. We're not going to be bullied and beaten. And by Oliver Tambo. They were so different as human beings in background. They loved each other. And there's a sense of dignity and clarity and strength that's so beautiful at that time of terrible pain, when South African soldiers dressed as though they were Mozambicans came in, fired rockets at sleeping people in a transit place and killed them. One of the survivors who got through a hole is here this evening, Moss, but unfortunately others. One of the visiting soldiers was killed, and you know, a local guy, a white guy, whom the attackers thought was Joe Slovo, he was killed. They thought they're killing Joe Slovo, and they're just killing a local white Mozambican. They were absolutely ruthless. We went to today also the office where Ruth First was killed by a letter bomb at the university where I'm speaking right now, not far from here, and the cemetery where, if the bomb that had took my arm and sight in one eye had been just a little skewer, I would have been buried there and I wouldn't be speaking to you today. So our bonds are bonds, actually bonds nourished by blood of Mozambicans, blood of South Africans. And I think of the price Mozambique paid for our freedom in South Africa, a civil war imposed upon them, child soldiers, millions of refugees fleeing the country, the economy being strangled, goods are diverted not to come through Maputo but to go down to Durban, the economy, the electricity lines being sabotaged, much worse than the load shedding in South Africa, down for days, South African commandos blowing up the electricity. Why? Simply because Samora Machel, Frelimo, the Mozambican people overwhelmingly were supporting our struggle in South Africa.
And just one of the main challenges that we face, South Africa today is free, Mozambique is free, but from time to time these sporadic attacks, predominantly on African migrants, and we've seen quite a significant number of Mozambicans also being attacked in South Africa. How do we try and deal with this issue as part of making sure that we have cohesion, but also we coexist as neighbours?
You know, it makes so much sense. If we had a big free trade area throughout Africa, if we loved each other as brothers and sisters, not simply out of romanticism, but we'll be better off. We don't have to import everything. We can make stuff ourselves, sell it to our local people. But also in terms of the richness of culture, of music, of dance, of expression, athletics, so many different ways. it's wonderful when Africa unites, and so it shouldn't even require a special plea, and particularly in the case of Mozambique, where they really paid in treasure and in destruction of institutions and in loss of lives and in blood. They paid for our liberation in South Africa. It's absolutely unthinkable that we should be treating them as bad neighbors and be disrespectful. I was a refugee in Mozambique. The bomb sent to kill me killed Mr. Musuji, a passerby on a Saturday or public holiday morning, strolling down the street. He was killed. So many Mozambicans died because of the civil war provoked by South Africa and Ian Smith at that stage, and because the leaders in Mozambique said, we will never be free until the whole of Africa is free. That included South Africa. How dare people in our country attack fellow Africans, stab them, make them feel unwanted, unwelcome, chase them out of the country, burn their cars. It's absolutely, totally, utterly unacceptable.
And just before I let you go, Justice, you were just telling your story, how it happened in 1998, but also you were talking about how Mozambique lifted your arm, after the attack with the very turbulent times in exile. And obviously, speaking to the wider context of the frontline states, whether you're talking about the raids in Botswana, Lesotho, Mozambique, and many others, but in the present day context, how do we tackle the common challenges, whether you're looking at job creation, the issues of socioeconomic rights, just briefly?
Well, if we can get the economies stronger and growing, each country benefits from the other advancement of the other. And Mozambique has got huge riches, resources, a long coastline, much closer to the Rand I call it, to Gauteng, than Durban is, for that matter. It makes sense for us. The language, Ronga, Shangaan, very, very close. The music, there's so many points of confluence that we can only benefit. There's a kind of a joy in meeting your neighbor and learning good things about your neighbor. And benefiting from good neighborliness. It applies in life, it applies in the suburbs where you live or a township where you live, and it applies between countries. And that's what we need. I benefited so much from the welcome I got from Mozambicans when I was toxic as far as they were concerned. I just brought destruction, and yet they sheltered me and they protected me, and their doctor saved my life. It was 1988, in fact, the doctor saved my life. I got my courage back when I came to Mozambique and I heard Samora Machel with his vivas and my arm that somehow in London just remained hanging loosely at my side. It wouldn't give a, well, we didn't use vivas in the ANC then, but mindless. My arm never went up. And I come to Mozambique and Samora got my arm to come up. I got my courage back. It was wonderful to feel part and parcel of the Mozambican revolution. And we learned so much from what it turns out were mistakes that they made. The one-party state turned out to be unsustainable, and we benefited in that way when we designed our constitution. We looked to what our brothers and sisters in Mozambique had tried, what worked and what didn't work. And some of the institutions didn't work, the one-party state didn't work. We decided on a multi-party democracy, not to please the British or the Germans or the French or the Americans, but to get the best constitutional system for our own country.
All right. Justice, thank you so much indeed for your time. So, of course, quite a very moving day here in Mozambique. Mozambique and South Africa, side by side, recognizing those freedom fighters, really, who paid a supreme price. And quite a very incredible atmosphere between these two neighbors as they mark this particular day.
Thank you very much, Khayelihle Khumalo, in conversation with Judge Albie Sachs, and that was all around honouring those who died in the Matola raid.